guys, it's Maddie or Books with Maddie, and welcome to my October wrap-up. Okay, so today we're wrapping up the books that I read in October. So I read 12 books in October. Technically, I counted that I read 14. I have not yet finished Blood and Honey or Eloquent Rage, which I said I was going to finish by the end of October / the first day of November. Now it's November 5th, and I've not read a single book this month. It's been awful. I have had the most stressful week of my entire life, so I apologize for whatever energy this video adopts. I don't know what it's gonna be, but whatever it is, it's not gonna be good. So we're just gonna go through these 12 books. I know I said this on Twitter, and a bunch of people seem to be expecting a explanation or an update on the future of Deck of TBR. That's coming. I'm still getting comments in the video suggestions. It's quite overwhelming. I appreciate all of the comments, but I've not had the time to sort through all of them and look at all of the suggestions and respond to all of them, so I apologize for that. But I am getting on that. It is very chaotic. I am unsure when. I'm hoping that'll come out next Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, but I'm not sure. It depends on a lot of things. So yes. Also, I just want to say a quick thank you because I just hit 500 subscribers, and that's wild to me. That is just what? That's a little bit crazy. And so I just want to say thanks because you guys are honestly the best, and I love you all so much. So this is the only way my hair will stay up. I look like freaking an insane person right now, but this is the only way my hair will stay up. For some reason, whenever I touch it, it starts to fall down. So this is how it's gonna look. I'm sorry. We're gonna go over the 12 books that I read in October, September, when? I don't know. September. No. October! Oh my gosh! Okay, so there were 2 2-star books, 2 3-star books, 3 4-star books, and 5 5-star books. We're gonna start with 2 stars, we're gonna go to 5 stars, up to this, we're gonna go from 2, 3, 4, 5. No 1-star books. It was actually a pretty good reading month. We had 5 5-stars, so that was good. I'm gonna give you a 2-sentence summary of the book and then my thoughts on it. Let's start off with The Blind Side by Michael Lewis. This is actually a continuation from a month ago. I started this a while ago. This was for the Spellbound book club. We read it in September, I believe. It was Morgan's pick. We just neither of us this is not what we thought it was. I think The Blind Side is Morgan's favorite movie, and so she thought that this was going to be different, but it just didn't really have a focus on what we thought it would. So basically it's like a biographical memoir thing. I don't know. It follows the life of Michael Orr from his homelessness at a very young age to being accepted lovingly into a stable family. We learn about his past, how he made it out of what looked like hopelessness, and how he fought the odds. So Michael Orr is a football player, and he grew up in this very impoverished situation, and then he made it out. I enjoyed the parts of the story that were about Michael Orr. He had a very, very interesting life, but this was so focused on football that I could not understand 80% of what they were saying. It's so inaccessible to anybody who doesn't know the most about football. I couldn't understand what they were saying half the time. There were these huge chapters that were just about football, and I was like, I don't care. I have no interest in this whatsoever. I don't know what you're talking about. Just wish that it had focused more on his life. I'm sorry about this situation, by the way. I don't know why that's happening, but we're just gonna deal with it. His life was very, very interesting, and so that definitely boosted it. And I believe he has his own memoir book, which might focus more on his life. I don't know. So this was 2 stars for me. The other 2-star book this month was Slated by Terry. This was for Deck of TBR, was my blind pick. And this is a book that I've been wanting to read for a while. I got it when I was in middle school and I read it and I remembered nothing about it. And I was like, it's weird that I have it on my bookshelf and technically it's read, but I don't remember anything about it. So I reread it and it just wasn't what I remembered. I forgot I have to say the synopsis. Hang on. Okay, so this story follows Kyla, whose memory has been erased by the government, who claims she was a criminal. When she starts to get glimpses of her past, she realizes someone is lying to her and she becomes determined to figure out the truth. So basically they live in this dystopian society where when people are criminals under the age of 16 or something, they get their memories wiped and they get a second chance at life. But she's like, was I really a criminal? I had a lot of this was just kind of boring. It just was kind of like every other YA dystopian novel that follows a 16-year-old girl out there, except it was more boring. There was no action. It was just kind of her inner narrative the entire time, and I I just found it kind of slow and boring. It was very, very tropey. It followed every single trope that you could possibly imagine a YA dystopian novel following a 16-year-old girl would. It actually said the sentence, Kyla is different, so many times. It was basically just like the subtitle for this book should be slated, Kyla is not like other girls. Just perpetuating that idea the entire time, and I just really don't appreciate that. In addition, I probably didn't enjoy this as much because it's just not for my age group. This is definitely for a much younger audience, which is something that I'm running into a lot. It's just like everybody's raving about these books and I'm like, this is not for me. Yeah, 2 stars. Moving on to 3 stars, we're gonna start off with The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins. This is a story about a woman named Rachel who commutes on the trains every day. She passes the same houses every day and begins to feel like she knows the occupants of them. One day she witnesses something shocking through her train window and places herself into the lives of those she's only ever imagined. So this is a mystery thriller. It's been compared over and over and over to Gone Girl. And as you know, Gone Girl is one of my favorite books that I read this year. I usually don't enjoy thrillers, so that was like pretty shocking to me, and I was looking for something else that was similar to Gone Girl, and this just was not it for me. I think I see some of the aspects in Gone Girl that are repeated in this, and I can see where the comparison is, but I think the aspects in Gone Girl that I appreciated, like the ones that I really liked, weren't in this, but there were other aspects that were. Does that make sense? So like the aspects that I didn't really enjoy in Gone Girl were the ones that are compared to this one. So it was kind of a letdown for me. It did have a pretty slow pace, which I just didn't really vibe with. I don't really like mysteries, so in the first place, like, this was much more, I feel like, mystery than thriller. The main character, Rachel, I just didn't really enjoy. I was really frustrated with her most of the time, and I know that thrillers don't really center around likable characters, so I don't know if that was, like, the intention of the author, but it kind of felt like we should be rooting for her because she was going through a lot of really hard things. But I just found her really frustrating, and, like, I just didn't really like her. I would just say overall it was just like average. Like, I can see why people enjoy this, but I think like you'd have to be really into like thrillers or mysteries in order to enjoy this. Like, I don't think this is just like if you prefer another genre over mystery or thriller, I don't think this will be anything like particularly special. I think also I had a lot of hype surrounding it because it was so compared to Gone Girl, so I had like really high expectations and was kind of just let down. And then the ending itself was like shocking to me, but it wasn't mind-blowing. I think I could have seen it coming. Like, if I had read more thrillers, I think it would have been predictable. I think that's the thing that I hear about a lot in like people who avidly read thrillers. They can like predict the ending because it follows the same tropes as another book, and I think this probably was one of those endings that was like quite predictable. It wasn't like mind-blowing or anything. It was just pretty just like, okay, I mean, that's shocking, but like, I mean, it had to be one of the people, and so like, I don't know. So it was just kind of average for me. So I only give it 3 stars. Next, I read The Brief and Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde. This was for my gender and sexuality in literature class. We are doing a unit on masculinity, so this was for that. And I just copied and pasted. This is like a really difficult book to explain, so I just did copy and paste the synopsis from Goodreads. Oscar is a sweet but disastrously overweight ghetto nerd who, from the New Jersey home he shares with his old world mother and rebellious sister, dreams of becoming the Dominican J.R.R. Tolkien, and most of all, finding love. But Oscar may never get what he wants. Blame the Fuku, a curse that has haunted Oscar's family for generations, following them on their epic journey from Santo Domingo to the USA. Encapsulating Dominican-American history, The Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde opens our eyes to an astonishing vision of the contemporary American experience and explores the endless human capacity to preserve and risk it all in the name of love. So, as you can see, this is a very, like, kind of heavy-handed novel, so there's a lot going on. It takes place in quite a few different time periods, follows many different family members, and it does really well capture Dominican history, so it has a lot of historical context, a lot of historical figures in the book. In that way, it was really good. I really enjoyed those aspects of it. But unfortunately, Junot Diaz, the author of that book, has been accused on, like, many occasions of sexually harassing women, specifically women of color and other authors. So I knew that before reading the book. My professor had mentioned it at the beginning of the semester, and so I had a really hard time getting past that information. Like, knowing that and going into this book was like really difficult to like separate what was happening in the book from the author. Like I said, this book does focus a lot on masculinity, and so there are some very toxic masculine men who are extremely misogynistic, extremely sexist, and just like treat women as sexual conquests, and the narrator of the book himself is just very, like, disgusting and, like, talks about women as if they're objects. It was really difficult to read. It was really hard knowing that the author had these accusations against him, and then reading, like, this extremely misogynistic, disgusting narrative. It was like, where's the separation? You know what I mean? And so that was something that was really difficult for me to get past. It did have a lot of good commentary on masculinity, different brands of masculinity. You know, Oscar, like the description said, he's very overweight. He's not the typical Dominican male and things like that. He's not the picture of masculinity that is expected of him. And so there is a good commentary on that. I'm not planning on reading any of these authors before. I have a hard time separating art from the artist. I don't think that I can personally, you know, continue to support somebody who's been accused of that by authors that I've read from, like Carmen Maria Machado. Like, I've read from her before, and learning that she had these accusations against him, I was like, well, yeah, I'm not gonna support him anymore. Like, my professor handled it very well. She was like, what do you guys think? Should I continue to teach this novel? Because she used it as a way to then connect to the Me Too movement and then teach about the Me Too movement. And so I thought that was cool, but I thought that another way that could have been handled was, instead of reading his book, we could read one of the authors who has accused him of something and then still use that as a connection to the Me Too movement and something like that. So I'm interested if you guys have any thoughts about that. Like, you know, can you separate art from the artist? You know, there's lots of really highly acclaimed classic authors who are racist, misogynistic, sexist, like, you know, so how do we handle that? I don't know, this kind of got into a deeper discussion, but, like, yeah, so there was definitely interesting commentary, and so I was very torn, so I kind of gave it 3 stars. It definitely had a lot of meaningful, you know, nuggets of knowledge in there that I appreciated, so that was great. And then, but, you know, overall I just really couldn't get past the author, and then the blatant misogyny inside of the book, as well as the main character Oscar. I just really didn't sympathize with him, which I think was the intention of the author, was like, you were supposed to sympathize with him, and a lot of people in my class did. I did not have that experience. I thought that he was still treated women as sexual conquests and was just as bad as, well, not just as bad, but he had the same tendencies as some of the other more masculine characters. He just didn't act on them as much, but he still wanted that. He just couldn't get that because of, you know, people, he was overweight, he didn't fit the ideal, you know, stature of Dominican American men, which is a whole other commentary, but, like, yeah, so that's kind of where I stand on that book. But yeah, so moving on, we're gonna go to 4 stars. The first one is Ignite Me by Tahira Mafi. So this is the 3rd book in the Shatter Me trilogy, so there's not really a synopsis. I don't want to read the synopsis of this book and then spoil it for you, but this is the 3rd book in the Shatter Me trilogy. This has been the best one yet, I think. I'm not planning on continuing any farther, because I've heard that after these, like, the continuation of the series is just not as good, so I don't plan on continuing. But I mentioned this quite a few times on my channel, but the Shatter Me book I read last year is one of my least favorite books of last year. I just really did not like it. I enjoyed the writing a lot, but the characters for me were just awful. It fell into so many tropes that I just despise. Then Unravel Me was 3 stars. It was a little bit better. I read it this year, but this one has been the best yet. The characters kind of exceeded those tropes, so it was kind of like they recognized, like, especially Juliet. She had been this, like, literal crybaby, couldn't do anything at all for herself, just awful. Like, everybody was just, like, fawning over her all the time, and finally she got out of that, which I was so grateful for, because I couldn't stand that. You know, Warner, we finally learned more about him, and Adam just, I don't want to say anything to spoil it, but he kind of, you know, fell into the background. So I didn't find it as problematic as Shatter Me, and so I really enjoyed it. It was really fast paced, and I enjoyed that, and yeah, it was just a good time. Yeah. Okay, next I read Squeeze Cute by Emma Lord. This book follows Pepper and Jack. Pepper is a chronic overachiever, while Jack is considered the class clown. When their family's businesses get into a Twitter rivalry, Jack and Pepper are at the front lines. As the battle starts to get more personal, they are thrust into their unexpected feelings for each other. So this is like a rom-com-esque situation. I read this for the Pop Sugar Challenge prompt, read a book surrounding social media. I had pretty low expectations for this book. This is not something I would typically reach for, but it was very cute, I will admit. There was some really good commentary, which I appreciated, on, like, the pressures of school. They both go to a very competitive high school, and so there was a lot of commentary about, like, social pressure from your school, from colleges, from your family, from other people, other classmates. They gave a very raw experience of what it's like to live like that. And so yeah, there was, like, a lot of things that were like, oh, follow your dreams, stuff like that, you know, just, like, encouragement to, like, do what you're passionate about rather than what other people expected you to do. And so I really appreciate that. Also, it's just, like, cute stuff. So yeah. Next we had Iconic reread of Warriors, which was my brand for like 7 years of my life. This was my favorite series from like ever. It's so good. It's so good. I think personally, oh, you know what I forgot? Cheech. My man's Cheech. Oh, I have to change his attire. I kind of want to make him a little hat or something. Where can he go? Here. He still has his Halloween scarf on. I gotta change his attire. Look, I can display the book here. Look at that! This is the first book in the Warrior series, and I read it for the Pop Sugar prompt, which was read a book from a series that has 20 or more books in it, and I'm pretty sure the Warriors has upwards of 1,000. So I read Into the Wild. The synopsis I just copied from Goodreads, and it says, for generations, 4 clans of wild cats have shared the forest according to the laws laid down by their warrior ancestors, but the Thunder Clan cats are in grave danger, and the sinister Shadow Clan grows stronger every day. Noble warriors are dying, and some deaths are more mysterious than others. In the midst of this turmoil appears an ordinary house cat named Rusty, who may turn out to be the bravest warrior of them all. So yeah, this book follows cats. And it's fine. I love it. It's definitely for children. I love it anyway. I honestly wish that I could go back to being a child so I could enjoy this just as much as I did back then. Definitely 90% of my enjoyment reading it now was just nostalgia. It was slower paced than I remembered. I remember being like super fast paced when I read it at first, but maybe I was just very easily entertained. But yeah, I was kind of bored at some points, but like that's probably because I'm just older, I don't know. And I just really love it. They're just so great. They're so good. And they're so like, you can read these as a 20-year-old. Do it. Do it. If you've never read these before, do them now. It's never too late. I highly encourage it. Okay, next, we're moving on to 5 stars. So like I said, I have 5 5-star books this month, which was like really good. First, we have Oleana by David Mamet. It's actually a play, but this is like like the play is a book, so it's written like this. It's not like, it's just dialogue. This is a 2-person play by David Mamet that follows a young student and her professor. It analyzes power dynamics, how they can shift, and what causes the shifts. Basically, it follows John and Carol, John being a professor, Carol being a student. She goes to his office and tries to ask for help, and he's just like really condescending, and so you kind of watch the power dynamic between the two of them change throughout the novel as she begins to confront those condescending attitudes towards her and things like that. It was very interesting. It's pretty like unlike anything I've ever read before to capture such a dynamic experience in such a short period of time. There is a movie version of it that you can watch. We watched it in class. Oh, sorry, this was also for my gender and sexuality and literature course. There is a movie, and the movie is pretty good. It's very different, like, from the play version of it. The play takes place on an empty stage. There's just, like, a desk, I think, and then, like, a chair for her to sit in, and then, like, a phone, because the phone is actually a really important aspect of the play. But it was very well crafted. It had a lot of important commentary, so it actually was kind of a response to political correctness and the ways that political correctness kind of affects people, how it can be kind of weaponized. It's so polarizing, which I found really interesting. I love things that are polarizing because it sparks up really interesting conversations. There's a really big moment at the end that happens, very surprising, very violent moment that happens at the end of the play, and it would cause like outrage and riots and things like that in the play. Like people who are watching the play would get like outraged because nobody can decide whose fault it was for what happens at the end of the book, whether it was John or Carol. And that is such an interesting thing. Like, I have my own personal beliefs on it. Like other people in my class had different beliefs on whose fault it was, but there is no like one person who was at fault. Like, it is both of their faults for what happened, and it's just so interesting, like who is more to blame and stuff like that. Highly recommend. It's very short. It's a very quick read, or even you could just watch the movie. I definitely think you get a different experience when you read the book first, or the play, I guess. Yeah, highly recommend. Next, I read Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds, which is a novel written in verse. This was also for Deck of TBR. It was for the prompt, a friend pick, and Oleana chose this book for me. So in O2 Put the Damn Guns Down, this is New York Times bestseller Jason Reynolds' fiercely stunning novel that takes place in 60 potent seconds. The time takes a kid to decide whether or not he's going to murder the guy who killed his brother. So my favorite part of this book is that it takes place over 60 seconds. Is that not incredible? That it's mind-blowing. The like language, the writing style of it is so good. I think I cried, I don't remember. I think I might have shed a few tears. And the commentary is extremely important. It's like it says in the beginning, it's like this, it's trying to stop this cycle of violence, of like shootings and things like that happening, especially in Black communities, and it was just like really powerful. Highly recommend. Super easy read. I read it in about 2 hours. It's written in verse, so super easy to get through and just extremely powerful. I would highly recommend, if you haven't read this yet, to pick it up. Okay, next we'll talk about Wonder Woman by Leigh Bardugo. This is the first book in the DC Icons series, which is like a bunch of books that follow different DC icons but by different authors. So, like, this is the first one by Leigh Bardugo. I think the second one is Batman by Marie Lu. Third one is Catwoman by Sarah J Maas, and the fourth one is, I don't remember. I can't remember. There's more though. This one is a retelling of Wonder Woman's story, which introduces Aria Corrales, a fierce student struggling to escape her overprotective brother, but she finds more than she bargained for when her ship is attacked during a semester at sea, and she is rescued by Diana. As Diana realizes who Aria truly is, a warbringer, she becomes determined to rescue her from her fate. So that is like kind of a confusing synopsis, but I tried to write it like so it's spoiled as little as possible. I went into this book totally blind, and I think that was the best way for me personally to do it. I did not know any other characters, things like that. I did not know if this was just gonna follow the story of the movie or whatnot. Honestly, Leigh Bardugo, my favorite author. She's done it again. I just loved it so much. The characters were so good. There was this huge plot twist towards the end. I did not see it coming at all. It was great. The writing was amazing. Everything was amazing. It was just great. And I'm kind of worried to read the next one, even though it is Marie Lu, and I love Marie Lu's writing. But I'm just so attached to this, like, Leigh Bardugo writing this that I kind of wish he was writing the rest of them. But yeah, I'm interested. I've never really read a series that each book is by a different author, and I love that idea. I know the 39 Clues did that, and then there was like another series like the Infinity Ring or something like that also did that as well. I did actually read a couple books from the 39 Clues. So actually I have done that before. But if you know other series that do this, like, recommend them below, because that's super interesting. Like, I love that idea. Really enjoyed that. Highly recommend. And then next I read The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. That sounds like a Greek last name that I won't know how to pronounce, so I apologize. Okay, so after her husband is shot and killed, Elisa Berenson refuses to talk. She is admitted to a psychiatric ward and for years refuses to talk. Everything changes when Theo Faber shows up, a criminal psychotherapist who is determined to get Alicia to talk. So I read this for the Pop Sugar Challenge, a medical thriller. I've never read a medical thriller before, and I really enjoyed this. I'm trying to figure out like what certain tropes of thrillers I like, because I do like thrillers, and when I read a good one, I almost always give it 5 stars. That's like stupid. Everybody, obviously, when they read a good book, gives it 5 stars. But I mean, like, I always say like, oh, I don't really like thrillers, I don't like mysteries. But when I read them, I always really enjoy them, the ones that I like. That doesn't make sense, but I feel like you know what I'm saying. Like, when I read one that I enjoy, I really enjoy it. I either really enjoy a thriller or really don't, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so this actually won the Goodreads awards things last year, I believe. And everybody was like really upset about that. Like, I remember people being like, this wasn't the best thriller, like this was just boring, it was just like a copy of it. I mean, I was surprised. I did not see it coming, like what ended up happening at the end. It literally ripped my brain apart. I felt like the dumbest boy in all the land when I read it. I felt like I just couldn't, like, it took me so, I had to reread the last, like, 50 pages, like, 3 times to understand what was happening, and I love that feeling. I love feeling like I've just been mentally annihilated by a book. I love that. The pacing I really enjoyed as well, but also I'm easily surprised. I never see anything coming. So, honestly, I've been shocked by every thriller I've ever read. I never see anything coming, probably because I don't read a lot of thrillers. So I don't know really what to expect. I don't know all the tropes yet. Maybe some people saw this coming and were really shocked by the ending. I personally was, and it was crazy. And you should read it if you haven't, if you want to be mentally annihilated. Just remember, like, when I was reading it, it was like 2 in the morning when I was finished it, and I started literally screaming, like, what is going on? Because I literally couldn't understand it. My mom was like, get off the phone. I was like, I'm talking to myself. That was my experience reading it. Okay, last book. One of my favorite new authors, Talia Hibbert. She's back. So last month, when was it? Last month? 2 months ago? A year ago? I don't remember. I read Get a Life, Chloe Brown, because it had fibromyalgia representation, but also has a lot of other representation. The main character is a person of color, and Chloe Brown had plus size rep. But this is the second book, which follows Chloe Brown's sister, Dani Brown. You can read them, I believe, in a whatever order you'd like, although like the characters from Chloe Brown like appear in this. So yeah, I mean, it's not really a spoiler because it's a romance. You kind of know what's gonna happen. I enjoyed this more than Chloe Brown. Chloe Brown I gave 4 stars. Dani Brown I gave 5 stars, and I think that was because like I was reading Chloe Brown from like a very like critical standpoint. I was like very much focusing on the fibromyalgia representation, and if you want to see my thoughts on the fibromyalgia representation, I will have the video in the card. I don't know which side it'll be on, but one of these corners. Sorry, let me read the synopsis. So the last thing Dani Brown wants is romance, but when handsome security guard is the fear and sorry rescues her from a workplace fire drill gone wrong, they strike up a deal. They'll fake date, each finding a benefit to it, but as time goes by, they realize they might not be faking it anymore. Yes. Yes. Fake dating. Great trope. 10 out of 10 trope. We stan fake dating in this household. Okay, also, Dani Brown is a women and gender studies graduate student. I'm studying women and gender studies too, and so like I loved everything. Like they went pretty in depth about women and gender studies in this book. Like they talked a lot about different speakers and things like that. And I was like, I really love that. I don't think I've ever read a book that has had somebody who's like majoring or like studying women and gender studies like this, and I just loved that. Also, she has like this, like I said, like the last thing she wants is romance. She has this huge like kind of relationship phobia. I feel that. I feel that hardcore. And so I just really resonated with Dani Brown's character. I loved her character so much. I loved Zaf's character. This was just like 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5, a million thumbs up on Yelp, like all of the things. It was just really cute. It was just a great experience to read it, and I highly, highly recommend it. So that's it. Those are all the books that I read in month, October, not including Blood and Honey or Eloquent Rage. I have an idea of what I'm gonna give those books, the rating I'm gonna give this, but I'll put that in my November wrap up, even though I read the majority in October. I just couldn't finish them. I don't even know the last time I read a book. And it's not even a reading slump, it's just I'm so busy and stressed that I just don't have the energy and time to read right now. So who knows what's going to happen with this 20 book TBR from November, but I will update you on what's going on with that, and if I'm going to be reading 20 books and things like that in my Deck of TBR update video that talks about the future of Deck of TBR and what's going to be happening with that. Yeah, I think that's it. Let me know what the best books that you read in October were, or maybe the worst books. Thank you again for 500 subscribers. Thank you so much for all of the love and support you continually show me and my channel, despite the fact that I am the strangest and I just say strange things. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you have a great day. I hope you have a great week, and I hope you have a great life. And I will see you very, very soon. Bye-bye.